Let's talk about scaling. I know you all are after lunch, so probably it would be good to kind of make a joke or show something funny. Whenever I make jokes, usually they are pretty bad, so I decided to show you something funny. And of course, what could be funnier than cat, right? So we're gonna talk about scaling, and some people say that doing Scrum with one team is like herding cats. So I found a picture, how does it look at scale? You see, you can get them to do something synchronous. So maybe you can do the same with multiple teams. Maybe they can do the same on a sprint review or something, which would be nice. So let's talk about scaling, and I want to briefly discuss three topics. One is what scaling is actually. The other is why would you want to scale at all? Is it a good idea to scale? Maybe, maybe not. We're gonna discuss this. And then, okay, if you decide to go with scale, then maybe you should prepare for that, because it needs a little bit of thinking and a little bit of preparation before you can do it. And I give you some ideas what to think about. So this is quite generic talk. No matter what kind of approach you're gonna use, what kind of framework, you can still use it. But let's try to define scaling. And as a speaker, you know, what you usually do, you Google, you paste some funny definition what scaling is, but I learned hard way that scaling is one of the things that you don't want to Google, really. I don't know if you tried it before, but it shows that usually it's removing lime from your teeth or something. So, what we're gonna talk about in terms of scaling and Scrum, and how to define where is scaling. Let's talk about scaling products and scaling teams. So we can have one product or multiple products and one team or multiple teams. So one product, one team, that's easy. That's Scrum, right? So what would be one product, multiple teams? That would be exactly scaled Scrum. So you still do Scrum with one product, but now you have multiple teams, and that's something that's already in the Scrum guide, that you can have multiple teams. And what would be if you do multiple products with one team? How you call it? Usually you call it mess, but here we call it context switching. It's really bad, so you don't want to do that. And there's also option multiple products with multiple teams, and that's like scaling the whole portfolio or doing agile transformation, actually. So you scale part of organization or the whole organization, and you want to use Scrum for that. And today we're gonna focus on this scenario, scaled Scrum. So why would you want it? So what you expect normally from scaling, what usually people say, they want to have more output, more impact, shorter time to market. They want higher revenue, of course. After all, it's all about money. But there is also the dark side to it. What you want to scale the nice things, but you're gonna scale also this. So probably you're gonna scale some process overhead, some dependencies, integration issues, defects, problems with bottlenecks, problem with releasing software, and so on. And of course, you're gonna scale your bad Scrum implementation, because hey, scaled Scrum is still Scrum. So if you do really bad Scrum and then you're gonna scale, then it's gonna be much, much worse, and it's gonna show. What Scrum does, it shows you the efficacy and efficiency of how you do work. So if you do it in larger scale, it's gonna show you more painfully and more visibly how good you are. This is something to have in mind. But why people want to scale? What would be the main reasons? One of the reasons is I want to go faster, so I put more teams. Okay. we're gonna discuss that briefly. Is it really a good idea, and is it really the only option you have? The other thing is, okay, we're gonna build something really big, and yeah, for that we need multiple teams. We cannot do it with 1 or 2 teams. We want to do it with 6 teams or 9 teams, or sometimes we see also bigger implementation. I think the numbers I've heard was the biggest was 150 teams. Okay, that's something big. So maybe you need that many teams for that. And another reason is our business is growing, so we are hiring people, and we need to grow the company, and we like Scrum, so we would like to do it with the whole company at scale. That's okay. So if you want to go faster, ask yourself, okay, how fast is really faster? So what's your benchmark? You want to go faster? How fast? Do you need scaling to go faster, really? Is there anything you could do to be faster with what you have already without adding more teams? So maybe one idea would be like, read that book, doing twice the work in half the time. So if you implement Scrum correctly, that's what you should get. So maybe there's something in the current implementation that you can change, improve. Maybe there are some impediments blocking the teams, remove the impediments, see if they go faster. Maybe there's something about how you manage your product. So maybe you can get more value from existing teams. But what's your hypothesis? Okay, you want to go faster by adding teams, and you believe it's gonna happen like that? You add teams, and then the velocity scales with it, or maybe it will be like that. What if you add teams and then it goes flat? There is no difference, or maybe it's even worse with time. So think about it before you do it, and would be good to have some business case and really calculate. Okay, we want to add more teams, but what we gonna get from that? There is this business opportunity here. If we release faster, we're gonna get 500K more. But what's the cost of that? In that case, it looks like 600. Does it still make sense? You want to add complexity to your process. You want to add more teams, and what you're gonna get by the end of the day? Does it really make sense? Think about it. So, okay, still want to go to scale, prepare for it. So it's like, stop and think for a moment before you put multiple teams. Okay, stop, think, plan a little bit, it helps. So usually what I see in big corporations, when you say, okay, I want to build something really big, then they come with this. And they say, oh, okay, then we need to prepare. So now we're gonna do the UX or user journey and so on, and we need to be sure about the product, and then we're gonna check with the architects, and then we're gonna start writing user stories. Like we've heard the stories today, also like there was the pile of requirements, and you know what happened afterwards. They discovered that they can stop looking at it and build the backlog from scratch. So maybe let's not do that. So if you do it that way, then the only agile part about it is the sprints, and well, you have funny names, the modern names. You don't call it maintenance these days. You call it DevOps. It's the maintenance guys with the tools in big corporations. I think Martin yesterday did the best definition of DevOps, how it should be so far. But if you want to go this way and really prepare and then do sprints and then deliver a big bang, what's the difference really? What has changed? What's the time to market? Is it different than it used to be with waterfall? No reason for that. So Scale Scrum is still Scrum, so you need to do it in Scrum way. But maybe there are some things to consider if you want to go with scale, like how you're going to build the backlog and so on. So first, you need to think about product. Always when you think about multiple teams or adding more teams, think first, okay, how are you going to split the product so the teams actually can deliver value? that they can deliver something that has some value. Good question would be, okay, if we have multiple teams, what they are going to show on sprint review? What if one of them fails? What does it do to product? Did we deliver anything or nothing at all? How are you going to split that so it kind of makes sense from value delivery point of view? And then you create teams with specific skills to deliver that part of the product. Then you think about team composition and size and things like that. And then you need to think about architecture. Is your architecture currently supporting this way of working? Can you split the product this way and have multiple teams delivering the product or not really? If not really, and I know that for many big organizations, it's not really, then maybe architecture is one of the constraints how you should think about slicing your product. Maybe you're not going to slice everything vertically. Maybe you're going to have this one team here doing something in some big important system because it's big monolith architecture. That's also fine. You need to understand what the current environment allows you to do. And then, how are you going to define and manage goals? How are you going to know what the teams are going to deliver and how they going to understand what they should deliver in this particular sprint? And how are you going to slice the product? With features, with areas, with personas? How are you going to manage the product backlog? If you do something really big, it can mean that in terms of user story, you can have really big number. Like I've seen numbers going to 2,000 user stories, and I've been to story workshops when we do story mapping, then you have like 4 walls of the room with stickies this size. This is your backlog. This is kind of not really manageable pile to do anything about it, to make really good decisions. So maybe you need to put some structure like epics, teams, features. Then it's easier to manage and easier to decide. How are you going to scale product owner? If the product owner at the moment cannot cope with 1 or 2 teams, if you add more teams, what are the chances that the backlog will be ready for sprint? Do you want to do product owner team? Do you want to delegate? Do you want to teach the teams more, educate the teams more? How are you going to align process? You need some alignment. We've heard stories about Microsoft. What happens if the sprint number is different between teams, if they don't have the same cadence? It's a big nightmare. You need to think about how you're going to align on that, and maybe also on estimation. If you want to see how the whole product is doing, how you're delivering, then maybe you need some way to do that. How are you going to scale removing impediments? This time it's going to hurt big. If you have multiple teams with the same impediments, with the same pain, then probably you should remove them faster. Do you have any fast lane to do that? How are you going to align standards? Standards of doing Scrum, definition of done, architecture, some committee to keep an eye on architecture, community of practice, Nexus integration team. What's going to be that? How are you going to manage dependencies, visualize and solving them? Do you have vehicle for that? How are you going to integrate and release? How are you going to align between teams to have alignment what they are doing and the knowledge what's happening in different teams? And how are you going to add more teams? Do you want to add 1 by 1? Do you want to grow teams to decide that you need to split them? What's the strategy here? And then for some of the questions here, you have ready answers. You have Nexus, you have less huge, less large. You have Scrum at scale, safe. So some of the answers are already there, so look for it and see which framework fits your best. You can see here that I didn't put Spotify as a scaling framework. That's for a reason, because Henrik Knieberg recently said that they're using Scrum at scale. So it's already there on the slide. Here you have Scrum at scale. And usually we focus only on how you structure teams. We don't talk about how you structure work and make decisions. And for that, they are using Scrum at scale. How are you going to measure and manage how well you're doing? the health of the teams, the business impact, does it still pay off to do scaling? Maybe you want to descale at some point. You need to have data for that. So start measuring and see how it's going. So to summarize, before you start scaling, you need to understand that you scale the good things and also the bad things. And you need to create some thesis or business case, okay, why you want to do that and how you're going to measure that. You need to do it well to become successful with that. So maybe use some framework, something ready for that. Prepare. Without preparation, it's going to fail. It will be a big mess. Choose the right framework, measure and manage on the way. And remember that Scale Scrum is still Scrum, so it has the same rules. It has the same dynamics, and you have to kind of manage it. Right? It's going to show you more. You need to deal with that, with product owner side and with removing impediments side. Thank you.